And we are live. What's good, Charles? Your man, Bill Saint. Welcome to the Downrange Podcast, man. You know, all things politics over here. And want to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy. I never heard of him before. And I'm right now checking up. Yeah. I saw his name and I saw that he was running for president. Um, didn't know anything about him other than he's from Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. And I knew then, like, I saw a picture of him, like, who's this Cincinnati kid, this young guy who came from out of nowhere? I'm running for president. I didn't think nothing of it, and I'm looking at his name. I didn't even bother to go figure out how to pronounce it. I was like, this dude, right? So he winds up on the Breakfast Club. You're doing the podcast, you're doing all that kind of stuff. You're doing, before you could do mainstream media nowadays, you got to go out and do alternative media. He's out there doing that. Then bam, he winds, he's on the Breakfast Club. And it looked to me, and I did a video on it. It looked to me that the Breakfast Club wanted to ambush him. They didn't really want to get to know the guy. They didn't really want to sit down and discuss or debate policies or, why you want to run or find out who. It's like they just wanted to get at him. And they failed miserably. But what they did succeed in is pushing his name out there into the mainstream world, because it was what they tried to do was so, came off so bad. They failed so miserably that folks like me were like, yo, who is dude? And started looking at him, and he's doing this thing right now, right? So Ramaswamy. And then in my video, I was so impressed with the way he handled the Breakfast Club. And, I was so down on the Breakfast Club for trying and failing the way that they did. Then, I made a statement. I'm like, yo, if the election were tomorrow, I would vote for this guy. Why? Because he's so charismatic, obviously extremely intelligent. He's young, energetic, and all that good stuff, right? But I didn't know a thing about his politics. I didn't know anything about his platform, nor what he stood for. Barely knew who the guy was. I'm like, I'm going to have to look into it. And my man Jay Swans was like, really, bro, really? So I'm like, all right, let me delve into this. So this is what we're doing. We're delving into it. We're going to see what Ramaswamy's politics is all about, what he's trying to do. We've already heard of some stuff, he wants to have all 18-year-olds take a test, a civics test, in order to be able to vote. I think from like 18 to 20, and I think after 20 or at 21, they can vote without taking the test. I think I got to delve into that some more. But, he talks about how young people don't seem to care about America, and their views on America are very poor. It's like there's no nationalism. People don't tend, it's like Americans don't really seem to care about their country. He has his own take on immigration and all that. So I found a video that we're gonna react to. We're gonna look at some of his stuff. It covers a lot of his points. So I'm like, you know what? We'll just jump on and we'll look at some of these things and we'll discuss it. And this is gonna be cool. I'm pretty sure we're gonna do more episodes to follow, this particular campaign. I mean, it's kind of fun to watch, man. Here's some underdog from the back of the pack, doing what he's doing. America loves a good underdog story. So we're definitely going to get into that. Ramaswamy has some very, let's say, unique views on race and racism in America, and affirmative action and some other stuff. So we're going to get into all that. Not so much this episode. Next episode, we're going to do the whole race thing. But this particular episode, we just kind of like introduction, kind of look at some stuff, see what he's talking about. It's plenty here, bro. It's plenty here. But again, I think the guy is very sharp. Obviously, graduated top of his class in high school. He went to a very elite high school in Cincinnati, Ohio, St. X, very elite private school. Went on to Ivy League, went on to Harvard, graduated with honors there, and went on to, build some businesses. He's made himself a billionaire through hard work and whatever else he had to do. He was working in Wall Street for a little bit. I think he was doing um, working with hedge funds and stuff like that. So he has an understanding of uh, finance with respect to Wall Street, and he's into medicine. So that's one of his things. He actually has a couple companies, formed some companies that actually went out and made some medicines and actually saved people's lives. So, very good, very well-rounded, very interesting story here. And he's running for president. He's very young, especially when we're in an era with these really old people. So, I mean, I find that good. I find that refreshing. But, his politics, I don't know. There's definitely a lot of disagreement there. I'm listening to what he has to say, and I definitely have a lot of disagreement. Um, so let's get into it, yo. So, it's a Saturday. I know people are doing whatever it is they're doing. I don't normally, well, I do during the school year, normally broadcast on Saturdays, but not this late. Normally around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you're watching this on Team Replay, please leave your comments and stuff below. Appreciate all your support. All my day ones, I appreciate all y'all. What's good? How y'all feeling? That's for you guys, in on Team Replay. It's a beautiful Saturday down here in Florida. So even though it's warm and I know it's hot across most of America, but I'm pretty sure people are out and about doing stuff at this time on a Saturday. So let's pull this up and get into this interview. Let's see. This is from John Stossel's podcast on YouTube. So, and I believe this guy, he looks real familiar. I believe this guy used to be with the networks. I want to say 60 Minutes or something like that. But I know he was like a big reporter who would get these good interviews. He has a pretty good show. I'm actually starting to really follow his content. It's good stuff. He has an interview with Ron DeSantis. I'm looking forward to watching that because DeSantis ain't talking to a lot of people these days. And with talking about Ron DeSantis, I will be surprised if he's still in this race, 30, 60 days from now. Florida is coming apart at the seams. DeSantis is nowhere to be found. Republicans, the conservatives don't seem to really be backing him. His money is walking away from him. So like the big donors are walking away from him. Things seem to be unraveling for Ron DeSantis and his team. So I don't suspect that he will make it to the primaries. And I don't think he'll make it to the debates and all that kind of stuff. I really don't. It's going to run out of money. People are going to keep pulling money. And the support isn't there. It just isn't there. And quite frankly, Florida needs their governor, right? And he's the guy to come down here and answer some of these questions and come up with some solutions for these problems that Florida is facing. The biggest problem, of course, being insurance or the lack thereof in the state. Farmers insurance just pulled out of Florida. And again, I'm going to be talking about that as well. That's another 2 or 3 episodes that we'll be covering over here. But let's get into this video and check out what's going on with Vivek Ramaswamy.
I am announcing my run for president of the United States.
Vivek Ramaswamy is making what he wrote about in this bestseller the focus of his presidential campaign.
He's running really as the first properly anti-woke president of the United States.
Ramaswamy is obviously a long shot, but his arguments that America's become a nation of victims, that some on Wall Street now collude with government to cripple capitalism, made me want to learn more about him.
You're doing surprisingly well if I look at the people who bet, which is not perfect, but the most reliable guide. You're in 5th place among the Republicans. You're ahead of Kristi Noem, ahead of Mike Pence.
We're looking to be number 1. That's the goal, but it's a steady climb to get there. I mean, it's like where Donald Trump was in 2015. That's about where we are in the polling nationally. Look, I'm not a political scientist. My projections of who's going to do what over the course of a year and a half, those predictions aren't worth much. But what I am in this race to do is to speak truth at every step. And my entire electoral strategy is I'm going to actually say what I believe. And we'll find out whether that's a winning strategy or not. My bet is that it is. I just came here from New Hampshire, spent 5 days on a 10-county bus tour there. If we're doing what we're doing in rooms of 100 or 200 people at a time, and we can take that nationally, I have full confidence we win this election. But more importantly, it's not about who wins this election that matters. It's the fact of how we actually revive our missing national identity. That's why I'm in this race, and I'd rather speak truth and lose the election rather than to play some political snakes and ladders and figure out how.
That's the number one issue.
So, he's going in like most politicians, it's about the truth. And I want to tell you guys exactly how I feel. And this platform is all about that. I'd rather lose telling you guys how I feel than win telling you what you want to hear. That right there is cap, just right off rip. But that's just standard fare for running for president of the United States. We all can agree on that, I believe. It is what it is. For him to come out and say, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do. I mean, this is an elitist. This is a billionaire. This is a guy, who would have us believe he's a self-made man, because initially I'm like, oh man, his parents came over here from India. They didn't really have much. And, his dad put himself through law school at night to get his son ready and to have a better life. And it's like, wait, you start looking into it. And it's like his father was already working for GE, which in Cincinnati is one of the big corporations. If you're working for GE or back in the day, GM, or, you working for one of the banks, you're already doing really well. So it's not like his father was a janitor at GE. No, his father was probably, in the office somewhere doing some real work. His mom was a doctor. So his father did put himself through medical school. Law school at night. So his father's a lawyer. His mom's a doctor. So everything starts to fall in place for me. When I'm, start to get into it, I'm like, oh, all right, I see what's going on. Dude's parents got money. That's how he got into St. X. I was thinking like, well, maybe he was just so smart. He won a scholarship. Nah, his parents took care of that. He got into St. X because dad's a lawyer, mom's a doctor. Now that makes sense. Graduated valedictorian. Apparently he was like almost pro level tennis star. Cool kid. I ain't mad at him. I don't have a problem with all that. But initially I was thinking, oh, here's the story of immigrants coming to America and pulling themselves up by the bootstraps. I don't know about that, but let's continue.
Revive our national identity?
I actually think it is.
And explain what that means.
So look, if you ask people my age, I'm 37, I'm a millennial, what does it mean to be American? You get a blank stare in response. I think that is a moral vacuum. It is a vacuum at the heart of our national soul.
What would you wish the response to be?
I'd wish the response to be something that was grounded in the principles that set America into motion. It said we're a nation built on basic ideas like the rule of law, like free speech and open debate, that we embrace meritocracy over grievance, that we embrace the unapologetic pursuit of excellence, that we live in a country where the people who we elect to run the government are the ones who actually run the government. Even if I disagree with them, let it be the people we elect, rather than a permanent managerial, bureaucratic, permanent state class that actually runs the show today. That's what it means.
And I get where it's coming from. And a lot of this is standard Republican talk. Government is too big. I want to make government smaller. You're going to hear him start to get into that talk. We need to allow free, capitalism to roam free. Regulation is bad. He's going to get into a whole bunch of stuff. And it's like, all right, I see where he's going. He's just a young, new version of what's been out there before. He's not he definitely supports Trump, but he's not a Trumper. You definitely get that from watching him speak. But no, he's about big money, getting bigger money. And the stuff that he wants to do, I'm like, all right, all right, I get it. I see what he's talking about. And right here, he's talking about, the lack of pride in our nation. And, young kids can't tell you why, America is important or whatever, or how they feel about the country. I get where he's coming from, but let somebody attack us. Like, 9/11 happened, September 12th, there were American flags outside of everybody's, house or window. There were American flags on everyone's car. America was united and we were ready to strike whoever it was that hit us. All of us were ready to go. All of us, right? From Bel Air to the trailer parks, from the hood to the swamp, we were ready to get down. And that's just one of those things that, America's always been that way. Infighting inside with America, whatever, everybody's infighting, but let somebody else from the outside do something. We always come together. From Pearl Harbor to 9/11 to the attack on the Maine, which led to the Spanish-American War. It doesn't matter when something happens, right? Americans come together instantly. And, and that's, the attack of the Maine. Maybe we'll talk about that one day. That was really an accident, but we were able to blame that accident on Spain, and it happened in Cuba, right? And we were able to start a war and actually, gain prestige on the world scale. We were able to fight a global war. Anyway, that's for another topic for another day. But the stuff that he's saying is standard, whatever. It's a lot of jibber jabber. For someone like me listening to it, I'm like, yeah, I'm an American warrior. Okay, I get it. I see where you're coming from, but what does that really mean? So let's continue to see what it really means. And by the way, I believe Ramaswamy said that he is the first millennial Republican candidate. I think that says a lot. Wow, it's the first millennial Republican candidate. That's pretty cool, I guess. Let's continue.
To be American, we fought a revolution to bring ourselves together, that may come from many different skin colors, that there's two different genders, that there are two different political parties, but what unites us is a commitment to those common set of ideals. That's what it means to be American. Yet now you get a dull, lobotomized stare. That's effectively what you get when you ask somebody what it means to be American, if not an actual shameful response, almost apologizing for the existence of a nation founded on those ideals. And yes, I think that's the most important issue. Why? Because our economic revival depends on a revival of self-confidence. Because the revival of our leadership on the global stage, the revival of American self-confidence on the global stage, starts with restoring self-confidence at home and in each of ourselves. And so that's why this presidential campaign for me is more of a cultural campaign than a political campaign, though it's taken the form.
Fighting the woke message that we people who don't succeed are helpless victims, that America's a bad place because we killed people to get here, etc.
Exactly. I mean, that's part of it. Wokeness is a symptom, though, of that deeper national identity crisis. Right? Those symptoms keep showing up. Racial wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, this new and latest, most fabulous cult that's spreading across America, COVIDism for a couple of years. It keeps showing up.
COVIDism is excessive fear of COVID?
It's the religiosity around COVID policies. Just like I described the religiosity around anti-climate change policies or anti-carbon policies. Just like I described the religiosity about viewing one another through the color of our skin. The religiosity, increasingly, of the transgender movement that has little tolerance for dissent. The reason we see the rise of these secular cults is that we're hungry for purpose and meaning. We want to be part of something bigger than ourselves, yet we still can't even answer the basic question of what it means to be American, what it means to be a citizen of this nation. I have a vision on what the answer to that question can be. I think we can revive it in this country. And if we do, that's actually the key to solving our other problems, economically, to foreign policy, to domestic policy, on which I have detailed thoughts on all of the above. But the revival of the national identity, that's actually what made me decide to enter this race. That's what gives me the motivation to actually go the distance.
And that's...
I don't know about that. I mean, is it... Now I hear about nationalism. You're saying, okay, bring pride back. Let's make pride great again. Let's have Americans be happy to be Americans. And is that what he's saying? And he's saying if Americans were to do that, then we would do better as a country. Financially, we would, our GDP would get better. Our educational standards would improve. I don't know, bro. I mean, that's a unique message. I've never heard that message before. That's unique, right? It's definitely a spin. And man, he was using some really big words, and it sounded really nice. I mean, okay, man, that sounds good, bro. But what the hell are you saying exactly? Right? That's what it boils down to. And it's like as an air traffic controller, we would get new rules and regulations, and stuff would come down. They want to, whatever. And every controller would ask the same question. Okay, how does that benefit me? How does that affect me? What does that have to do with me? And I'm not hearing the answer to that. But like I said, this guy, I want to say this guy was a debate champion, I think. I think he was really like Harvard debate team he was on the debate team probably in high school, was like really good. You can hear that. And if whether that's true or not, you can tell like this guy's good. He He got bars, right? He's sitting there rocking it out. He got bars, but what exactly is he talking about? And I guess my biggest question would be, if I could sit down with the brother, I would ask him, hey man, since we're about telling the truth here, what do you really want? Do you want the rich to get richer? You want the poor to get poorer? Are you trying to, you know what I mean, close the wealth gap? Or you want to widen the wealth gap? Like, what are we talking about here for real? Like, do we want to guarantee a true living work wage for the regular folk out there? Do we want to bring back the middle class? Where's all that fit in to being proud of being American? Because I guarantee you there'll be a lot less upset folks if people could go to work for a corporation and could work for 20 or 30 years and get a decent retirement and work at a good wage, a wage that keeps pace with inflation. If people can earn money and be able to buy the stuff that they wanted, if people could earn money and have really, effective medical coverage, right? If people could afford their homes and they can buy homes, if people could put a little bit of money away and actually have a savings, if people could, stuff like that, I think it'd be a whole lot of pride in America. I think America's like, yeah, America is great because I'm doing great. But most Americans aren't doing great. So if they're not doing great, they're like, man, forget America and all the rest of them. Now it's all about how come I can't eat? My kids don't have an education. How come stuff like that? So I wonder how he's going to address that moving forward, because the more popularity he gains, the more traction he gains in the polls, the more attention he gets, the tougher these questions are going to be.
That's the biggest issue, more than I can think of a couple other big ones. Like,
I can think of a couple of the big ones too.
Crisis at the border,
Yes.
and our unsustainable debt.
Both of those are failures of realizing our national identity. So let's talk about the border. Part of who we are is we're a nation built on the rule of law. When you abandon the values that define who you are as a country, when everything becomes just relativistic, morally relativistic, including legally relativistic, then what's wrong with an open border, right? So that's a symptom of, again, that deeper loss of national identity. And then they'll say you're racist or xenophobic, whereas I say no. The reason that we say no to illegal immigration is not because the people who are crossing are somehow bad people. That's not the case. It's the case that, well, the people, drug cartels, they have more cynical intentions, but many, if not most people, are not bad human beings. It's that we are a nation built on the rule of law. We cannot tolerate somebody breaking the law as their first act of entering this country.
How'd your parents get in?
Legally, through the front door. My dad came here to get an education. He got an educational visa. My mother married my father. She also came here. She's a physician who built a career as a successful geriatric psychiatrist. So that's how my parents came here. And I think we should.
That was in the 80s. My understanding is now an Indian computer engineer with skills who applied legally would take 20, 50, 100 years to get in, because we're so tough on letting people in legally.
Well, I'm a big fan of merit-based immigration in this country. I think we should want more immigrants like my parents. Not all Republicans will agree with me on that. That's fair. We can have a debate about this, but I believe in merit-based immigration. To me, merit means A, the contributions you're going to make to this country, and B, your civic commitment to the country. But I believe in merit-based immigration. I don't believe in turning our blind eye to border security in the name of advancing immigration policy. Border security and immigration are two separate questions. We should deal with them differently.
Merit-based.
So, okay, I'm hearing him right now. Right. So, he's saying that, when he's talking about the southern border and talking about folks coming over here, and he was like, those aren't bad people. Trump said they were bad people in one of the most horrific ways possible. And then you look at what's going on down here in Florida with DeSantis, who's trying to out-Trump Trump, which is just the dumbest thing you could possibly do. He has undocumented folks leaving in droves, and is kind of leaving Florida in a lurch. Let's keep it 100. America counts on that undocumented segment of the population coming over here and working to get that cheap labor. I think that's wrong. We do have laws, and I agree with what Brother Ramaswamy is saying about enforcing the laws. We should enforce the laws on the books. I've said it on this platform. I've said it out in real life. We should enforce the laws on the books. So if you're in this country illegally, and you're caught by law enforcement, either driving, you get pulled over, law enforcement looks at you, right? If you get caught up in some sort of sweep or whatever, something comes up, you should be, the law says you're here illegally, you got to go, or whatever the law says. We should be enforcing the laws or modifying the laws or taking those laws off the books, but we shouldn't be doing what we're doing now. But as far as this merit-based thing, what does that mean? How does that look? I mean, I don't get it. Based on what? I mean, how do you, that just sounds like that's an opportunity for people with money to get people that they need to come in, and they can show whatever merit is necessary to get that individual in or that person's family. I mean, if you're talking about merit-based, I mean, I just think of all those translators and all those people who helped the U.S. military in Afghanistan, for instance. All those people who helped us, and we left them when we cut and went home. We just left them. Those people should have came, and their family should have been allowed to come. When America left, we should have taken them with us. I mean, what merit outdoes what they were doing, putting their lives on the line for Americans, trying to get the American mission accomplished. So I wonder how that would look. I mean, if this merit-based, right, this merit-based immigration policy, would it weight those who put their lives on the line for America over those who have money, or maybe those with education over those with religious values? Like, how would that look? I don't know. Again, he's talking good. He sounds good, but what does any of it mean?
Based means, are you educated? Do you have money? How do you decide merit?
It's a great question. So I think that the likelihood of making a contribution to the country, specifically an economic contribution to the country, combined with civic allegiance to the country, passing a civic exam that you would have to at the time you got to be citizenship, maybe even at the time you get a visa, we should bring that up to make sure that we're bringing in and adding to the civic lifeblood of the country, rather than, frankly, many 18-year-olds who earn the right to vote at the age of 18 but don't know the first thing about the Constitution or our country's history. I think we need to fix that through our educational system. But I also think that one of the ways to preserve that lifeblood of American civic identity is through making sure that the filters we apply to immigration, to who gets into this country, bring in people who are actually in love with this country, who actually badly thirst for the ideals that represent America.
I don't get the filter. You can't measure their love.
Well, I think you can measure their competence. And I think that it takes some level of commitment to be able to.
So do you have a job? Do you have money to invest?
Yes. Do you have a stable family? Do you have basic knowledge of the Constitution? Do you have a basic knowledge of the history of the United States? And I think that addresses a lot of the concerns of even people who have a knee-jerk reaction even against legal immigration, because I think you have a valid point that we don't have assimilation in this country, that we celebrate our diversity while forgetting the ideals that bind us together. I think we can tighten up immigration policy, even legal immigration policy, to make sure that the people who enter this country are indeed American or ready to be American in the truest sense of that word, meaning that they actually share a commitment, starting with at least having an awareness of the commitments that we make as Americans.
The unsustainable debt.
Yes.
Social Security will go broke. Medicare will stop paying my medical bills. What would you do?
Well, I would put.
Hey, before he gets into that, though, that last bit about legal immigration and ensuring that people who come into this country understand the Constitution, understand the history of this country, understand what they're getting themselves into. I would argue those people absolutely understand those things. They absolutely understand those things. Most people in the world know more about American history, more about American politics, more about the Constitution than the Americans who are born here and actually live here. Shout out to Falcon Laser Strike Force in the building. What's good, fam? What's good, fam? Good to see you. It's one of those things. To me, it's talking fast and sounds good, but it's ridiculous. Like talking about having to pass some sort of civics exam to become a citizen legally, they already do. And it's a pretty tough exam. In fact, when you talk to people who've gone through the process, man, they've made all kinds of sacrifices to become Americans. I don't think you have to worry about them. I really don't. Like, I don't think that's the problem. And if you have people coming to this country, paying folks to sneak them into this country, either walking through a desert or coming over in a cargo ship, like if they get here and you say all you have to do is take an exam and tell us, a civics exam and tell us about the history of America, they would gladly take that. All you gotta do is pass this written test and I could get in. They would gladly do that. And most of them could probably do that without even studying. So like that party was all that whole part about immigration, he didn't really say anything to me. I didn't really hear anything other than the talking. There was some big words in there, but I didn't really. Yeah, it's like my buddy Jay Swan says, bro. He's like, yeah, he uses a lot of SAT words, right? But what is he really trying to convey? But let's continue.
Put pressure on that premise. Okay, they will if we extrapolate the current GDP growth rate in this country. Right now, I see a lot of small ball between Republicans and Democrats on national debt questions. Democrats say we need to increase taxes. The only problem with that is that reduces the size of the pie and the size of your tax base. So that's a self-defeating proposition.
It also wouldn't solve Medicare.
It also really wouldn't solve Medicare. Yeah, exactly. Second issue is that the Republicans will say that, well, at least some of them, that you have to make cuts to Social Security and Medicare or else we're doomed in its financial Armageddon. I think there's a third way. The third way is restoring GDP growth in this country, restoring economic growth. We've grown at more than 4% for most of our national history. We're at 1 point something percent now. That is a shame. But
how do you restore that?
Drilling more, fracking more, burning coal unapologetically. I know coal is
really polluting.
Well, there's other ways we should figure out how to deal with that, but I don't think that it's nearly as pollutive as the public narrative makes it out to be, especially with modern methods of burning coal as well, embracing nuclear energy. So the very people who are opposed to fossil fuels are mysteriously hostile to the best known form of carbon-free energy production known to mankind, which tells you what's going on. The climate cult has nothing to do with the climate. It has to do with global equity.
And now we start to get into it. All right, we see what it is. All right, bro. Yeah, he's a capitalist, and okay. Drill baby drill. It's drill baby drill, but it's just, he's saying it a different way, using different terms, using different words. Yeah, we should be drilling more, should be fracking more, burning more coal. Well, we could find a better way to do it where it's not as polluting. Like, word? Like, word? Okay. And nuclear. Oh man, we should be really getting, nuclear is the way. Bro, it's a reason that industry has gone away in America. And the reason is 3 Mile Island. Right? And then right after 3 Mile Island, you saw what happened in Ukraine, right? With Chernobyl. Look at what happened in Japan with Fukushima. Nuclear, yeah, okay, nuclear is cool, but it's lethal. It's lethal. And if it's not managed properly, it's not cost effective because it costs a lot of money to run that technology safely. The reason Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island was so bad is because it was managed poorly. And people did dumb things. 3 Mile Island was a maintenance thing that caused that thing. And that would have been worse than Chernobyl. It was that close to being the worst nuclear disaster the world has ever seen. That, distinction goes over to Chernobyl. And the same thing, what happened there? You had a guy wanting to just do what he wanted to do, mental management, not following the rules. And then you had a piece of equipment that was made cheaply. Right? It was so the very device that you need, the very system you need to do an emergency shutdown actually caused the disaster because the tips of the control rods were made cheaply. The tips of the control rod became the very mechanism that blew the whole thing up because they went cheaper with the boron tips or whatever. So nah, man, nuclear certainly isn't the way. Brother Mandrell's in the building. My favorite Green Beret. What's up, fam? Good to see you. So we see where he's going. Like, all right, I see where he's going here. Let's drill. Let's do more fracking. Let's burn more coal. Let's do nuclear. But for how long? I mean, we all will agree that that's not sustainable. Just not enough oil to dig up. There's not enough coal to burn. Like, what we're gonna have to do something if we're gonna continue as a species. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but like, what else are we gonna do here? Right? Like, what else? We're just gonna keep doing this? I don't know. Let's continue.
Because they don't want America or even the West to get ahead. Nuclear energy might be too good at doing that. They want to give China and other parts of the world a chance to catch up. That's what
Wait a
this is about.
second. These fools don't oppose nuclear energy because we might get ahead of China. They're just scared. They
No, I
think
don't
of
think that's
nuclear
right.
bombs.
I don't think that that's right. I think that they're exploiting some set of fears that some people have. I think the real problem with nuclear energy,
Hey, bro, they remember 3 Mile Island. They remember Chernobyl. They know what happened in Fukushima. That's why they don't want it. They don't want it here. That's why.
they won't say it out loud, but I think the essence of what's going on is that it might be too good at addressing their made up climate crisis. And so if that's the case, well, guess what? If you have nuclear energy, the U.S. continues to get on its growth trajectory that it's always been on, where part of this was about, they like the expression in a different context, bending the curve so that other parts of the world can actually catch up. That's why they don't apply the same constraints, even when it comes to carbon emissions, to places like China as they do to the United States. So back to GDP growth, unshackling U.S. energy is fundamental. Putting people back to work is fundamental. Stop paying people to stay at home. We give people an incentive in this country to be lazy. That is an obstacle to GDP growth. It's a big part of why businesses today cannot find adequate workers to get a job done. That's an obstacle to GDP growth. And then a third one is reform of the Federal Reserve, an agency that has gone so rogue in believing that it can hit two targets with one arrow, inflation and unemployment, that we're going to somehow balance them by playing financial God. It's a flawed premise. I would put the Fed back in its place to go back to stabilizing the dollar as a unit of measurement. That actually helps capital allocation in this country. You know, it's funny, you and I are sitting down this interview. Let's say the number of minutes in an hour varied from time to time. We wouldn't have showed up. You'd be sitting in one chair, and then I'd show up later and you'd be gone. I'd be sitting in a different chair. Same goes for capital allocation in an economy. When the dollar is as volatile as it is, that doesn't help efficiency of allocating capital to the highest returning projects. And capital allocation and efficient allocation of capital is a precondition for GDP growth. And GDP growth is a fancy way of saying we all make more money. So again, I think that any economist would tell you self-confidence in psychology is an important part of an economy too. Revitalizing our national sense of self-confidence, especially among workers, is also something that spurs confidence in the economy itself. So with those four things, I think we can get back to 5+% GDP growth, let alone the 1 point something that we're in. But back to your original premise, even if we're growing at over 3+%, the idea that we're going to run out of Social Security or Medicare actually goes away. We will grow our way out of our problems. That's how we do it.
You've said you would fire over half of the government's workers.
That's correct.
So we're going to talk about the Fed in a hot second, but he started off that quick segment with, we need to get people back to work. People are at home. They don't want to go back to work. People are being incentivized to be lazy, which I agree with. People are being, stimmy checks and all that. But now it's like, well, I will fire half of the current government workforce. The U.S. government is the biggest employer in America, possibly the world. Right? It's bar none, the biggest employer. So we're going to get people back to work, but we're going to fire half of the people to work for the biggest employer in the country. That math isn't mathing. That right there, okay. And that's going to have a huge effect on Wall Street. It's going to have a huge effect on our monetary system, and it's going to force the Fed, like politicians and the Fed, to print more money to have some sort of stimulus because we laid off all these employees. I mean, this is the normal, traditional, historic Republican talking point. Government's too big. We need smaller government, and we need less taxes. We need less regulation. Now, he's not using those words. He's using other SAT words, but that's what he's getting at. At least that's what I'm hearing. There's no way to have nuclear power without doing something about regulation. and he's gonna mention some agencies here in a minute. And it's funny, I'm kind of looking at it. I mean, and maybe it's because he's so young. He's not really doing a good job of hiding this intent. I mean, sounds good talking, and I would love an opportunity to sit down and have a chat with the brother. Like, well, how are you gonna do this and how are you gonna do that? You know what I mean? Like, okay, that sounds good in theory, but show me the math. And by that I mean, show me how you would do it. Show me how that will work. So, but yeah, it's again, I'm hearing the normal Republican talking points. Government is too big. We need smaller government. We pay too much taxes. We need less taxes. And I'm also hearing less regulation. At least that's what I'm hearing. Tell me if I'm wrong. Miss Globe Girl's in the building. What's up? What's good? She's late, but this was your guy though. If I remember correctly, glad to see you did the research. Yeah, this was my guy. And I would have, and I'm glad you brought that up. I would, if the election was the next day, I would have voted for this dude. I would have got swept up in that, man, yeah, he beat up on them people, man. They tried to get him in da-da-da, and that would have been stupid of me. And I would have regretted that decision, like, oh, man, right? That's what happens in American politics, right? It's not even about policy anymore, right? It's about popularity contests and, this guy's young and he's sharp and he's vibrant and he's, man, listen to how smart he is. You're right, Ms. Globe Girl. You are 100% correct. And just for the record, it was my brother Jay Swans who really, me and him went back and forth for about an hour on the phone, and I lost that. I lost that too. So it was like, I ain't no getting around it. I lost. But you're right, Ms. Globe Girl. And I love you too. Always coming in here. You know what I mean? Get me with that shank. Hey, DL, I love you. She don't stick it all the way in. She just sticks it in a little bit. Just a little bit, just to let me know. Brother Dinosaur's in the house, man. What's good, fam? How you feeling? Brother DL, this guy has no chance whatsoever. DeSantis will start targeting Tim Scott. The GOP big money is starting to lead DeSantis to Scott. Yeah, I was talking to some people on the West Coast, some of my Republican friends, some of the puppet masters. None of them right now, none of them are putting anything really behind, Brother Ramaswamy. No one is. None of the big money. None of these guys are taking him serious. At this point, no one's taking him serious. But we'll see. But Ramaswamy is polling way higher than Scott right now, it is what it is. And I have a tinfoil hat conspiracy I'm going to throw out there at the end of this episode of how I think he might wind up in office. It's gonna be funny. It's gonna be funny. I'm trying to talk and write at the same time. I got it up there. So yeah, it's gonna be funny. I can't wait to hear y'all reaction to it. But I agree with you. I mean, in every Republican I talk to, every talking head you talk to, all of the media people, mainstream media, they all say the same thing. Like, there's no way this dude's gonna be president. No way he's gonna win this election. But they also acknowledge, like, boy, he's growing with a bullet though. And all of that has to do with, his presence. I mean, it is what it is. That's American politics for you. Brother Dino's like, America has a problem with Catholic presidents, let alone Hindu, bro. And he says that he is Christian, if I'm not mistaken. He talks a lot about Christian values and Christian. I don't know if he converted or if he was raised Christian. I don't know. Again, that's something we're gonna have to get into. This is definitely gonna be a multi-part series we're gonna do following Vivek Ramaswamy. And I'm probably pronouncing his first name wrong, but like I said, man, well spoken or whatever. Miss Globe Grill, just looking out for you, my brother. And I appreciate you, love. I do. That's my favorite sailor. I appreciate you. This is why I love this platform. This is why I'm a big fan of YouTube. When you start talking to folks, you put yourself out there, folks gonna rock with you and they gonna keep you straight. That's why I appreciate y'all. Even Codius King said this to me when he first started following. I was like, hey man, I appreciate your support. He was like, I'm with you, bro. I'm gonna support you until I don't. So if you keep doing what you're doing, I'm with you. You know what I mean? But if I find that you're not who I think you are, then I'm on my own. I mean, you're on your own. I'll see you around. So, and I respect that because that's how I look at folks. The exact same way. Let's see, Brother Dino. DL, did he pass the U.S. system test? Do you know? He didn't have to take one, but he has the best education you can buy. So I just don't see, a guy who graduated valedictorian from one of the most prestigious private high schools, in Cincinnati and probably the States. And he goes off and graduates with honors from Ivy League, Harvard. I don't think this dude will have a problem taking anybody's test on anything. You feel me? You know what I mean? So I would say, yeah, you know what I mean? But, and Brother Dino, the kind of test that they're talking about, the kind of test that he's proposing would be a very simple test. It wouldn't even be that difficult, to be honest with you. It would be very, very basic. And I would wager that you could pass it without testing. It would be so basic. But again, this could just be another way to keep people from voting. Young people tend to vote liberal. So if you had a test that they had to pass in order to vote, if they didn't pass the test, you're stopping what? Probably a liberal vote. And young people don't vote anyway. So, I mean, that whole thing is like, it is what it is. Wonderful 34 is in the building. What's good, fam? Good to see you. Thanks for coming through. Hope y'all are having a good weekend. I really do. Oh, and Brother Dino's like, no, you talking about the test they did on the Heated podcast on did he pass the test that they were giving him on the Breakfast Club? I don't know. I don't know because I don't think she ever got around to actually. She was testing him. Her test was, what did you do to help people? I think it was her test, and what qualifies you to run, and what qualifies you to say these other things like we need to test folks. I don't think she got it all out there. And if she did, I'm pretty sure her test was designed for him to fail anyway. I don't know. Got to go back and watch that closely. I would say maybe he didn't, but the bigger test was them trying to ambush him and they failed. So they failed in their tactics to begin with. And kind of pushed him along. It definitely had the opposite effect I think they were hoping for. But yeah, man, it was crazy. Hey, Ms. Globe Girl, he wants people to take the U.S. citizenship test. So I agree with Dino's question. Wonder if he took it. Right. So and Brother Dino's talking about what went on with the Breakfast Club, and the woman on the Breakfast Club said she had a test for him and was asking him questions. So it was a different sort of test. At least that's how I took it. That's what I walked away from, but with it. But again, you're talking about an Ivy League educated guy, best high school education, I mean, and probably middle school and elementary and all that. His parents, his best education money can buy. I'm pretty sure this dude can pass any test that you give him, especially if you get an opportunity to study. Pretty sure the dude could pass any test. But what they were trying to do on the Breakfast Club was a little different. And I'm pretty sure it was designed to make him look bad. There's no way he would have passed that. But I'm not sure. I have to go back and look at it again. I heard some of the citizens test questions. You got to study for them. They ain't easy. Yes, in real life. Now, so there's two things I'm talking about here. What he's proposing does not exist. He's proposing a test for Americans, at age 18. What he's proposing, that test would be, I would imagine that test would be fairly easy. It would be way easier than the current test that's in existence now for citizens, prospective citizens have to pass. Like the citizenship test now is difficult, and it always has been. It's no joke. And people study hard for it. They give you, they give you study guides and all that. So the people who green card holders and people who, go through that process know way more about the Constitution, way more about American history, way more about civics than the average American, of course. And that test is very hard. And a lot of people who take that test have said that they use Schoolhouse Rock, which was a program that was like the 70s and 80s. And a lot of people are familiar with some of the songs and some of the stuff from Schoolhouse Rock. One of the most popular ones is "I'm Just a Bill" and Conjunction, Junction. Right. So Schoolhouse Rock has History Rock, which covers civics and all that. They have the Three-Wing Circus is like one of them when it talks about checks and balances and the three branches of government. And this is what we grew up on watching on television. This would be little cartoons between the major cartoons. So you're sitting there watching Space Ghost, and then the commercials come up, and it would show Conjunction Junction. Schoolhouse Rock would come on, and they would show one of the learning cartoons, and it would get back to normal programming. A lot of people who've taken that citizenship test, the one that exists today, they say they use Schoolhouse Rock to help them study. And they get these songs in their head, and it can help them, recall when it's time to answer the questions, which I think is pretty cool. Ms. Globe Girl, I don't agree that he can pass any test without studying first. Don't be fooled by people's education and the millions they have. That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, this guy, he sounds really good, but I've come across people who talk a good game and be dumb as a box of rocks. Facts. I've talked to people who were Ivy League educated and didn't really know much, but the stuff they did know, they knew. They do the basic stuff they knew. But I'm sure they're out there. You're right about that. You are right about that. So, but yeah, it just blew my mind. He's like, okay, we got to get Americans working again, and then 3 breaths later, I'm gonna fire half of the current workforce within the federal government, which is the largest employer of Americans in the country. So I'm just like, okay, so you're gonna fire all these people, and then what are they gonna do? Like, where they gonna get that money? They all gonna be trying to get unemployment, and they're all gonna be looking for help. Again, and this is this was a 50-minute interview. Maybe they cut it down. Maybe they did a little bit of editing. I don't know. But the one thing I will say about Brother Ramaswamy is he's willing to have this discourse. He's willing to have the conversation. He's willing to debate these things. And that's what's up. You know what I mean? For me, I'm like, all right, that's what's up. Let's sit down and talk about it. Maybe we could come to an understanding or something like that. You know what I mean? Brother Chris Smoky House in the building. What's good, fam? Salute to the chat. Good evening. So, happy to be here. I'm glad you're here, bro. I'm so glad you're here, man. Brother Dino, Trump had the best education money can buy. Look how that turned out. Yeah, good point. Good point. Falcon Laser Strike Force. It appears, according to his rules, his parents would not have been allowed to be citizens. No money, no education, but want to be American. Would 1 out of 3 work? Who knows? Who knows what that merit-based thing was? And I think his parents came with money, bro. Because it was like his father. I want to say his father came over and gave his job at GE. I think he had some education or something. But that was the 80s. Who knows? But you're right. You're right. It would rule out his own family would be ruled out under his rules. It seems maybe. Again, they're talking, but there's no plan. There's no, okay, what would that look like? He doesn't know. Maybe if he continues on the campaign trail, maybe they will hash out some sort of plan. This is what it looks like. This is what we would do. And then, that'll be good to talk about. So let's continue with the video.
You would close the education department, other departments?
Yeah, I would shut down the U.S. Department of Education, not because I'm anti-education, but because I am pro-education. And the federal government has no business in education that should be administered locally. And there's a lot of things wrong with that.
What other agencies?
I'd shut down.
If you're going to fire more than half the government workers.
Yeah, so
big cuts.
Yes, so in the Federal Reserve, I wouldn't shut down the Federal Reserve. I'd just lay off over 90% of the people working there. There's over 22,000 people in the U.S. Federal Reserve System now. We need less than 2,000 if its scope goes back to stabilizing the U.S. dollar, scope of focus. The FBI, a politicized government agency. In that case, we do need federal law enforcement. But the culture of that agency has become so corrupt that you're not going to fix it top down. You have to do it bottom up. And you can't do it bottom up without actually closing down the current FBI and creating something new to take its place.
A new, smaller agency?
Exactly. A leaner, fit-for-purpose agency that respects the Constitution and the law rather than making it up as it goes along, which is what today's
What
FBI
about the
is.
housing?
And again, these are all very popular talking points within the conservative movement on the Republican side. So he's done a really good job of reforming a message with all the elements that the conservatives want to hear. Like, he's speaking to the Trumpers, he's speaking to the Tea Partiers, and he's speaking to the traditional Republicans or old school Republicans, because he's throwing elements of all their stuff into this big old gumbo. It's like, wow, you're gonna do away with the Department of Education? Okay. You're gonna cut the government in half. You're going to fire half the employees. You want to revamp the FBI. You want to do away with the FBI and create something to put in its place. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, all right, want to get rid of HUD. You know, like the Fed. All right, cool. What's the Fed supposed to do? Well, I want to bring it back to what they're really supposed to be doing. Okay. How is all this going to look in real life, man? Okay, this might sound good to some people out there, but how's this going to look in real life? All of America doesn't understand how entrenched the federal government is and how dependent most Americans, if not all Americans, are to the government in some way, shape, or form. You talking about doing all this stuff? That's a fundamental change, a shock to the system. How is Wall Street going to handle that? Right? How are people going to get money? You want to get rid of Fannie and Freddie? Like, it's just so many things. Like, if he were to do what he says he wants to do, that gap between the have-gots and the have-nots will be bigger than the Grand Canyon, bro. It would be a bigger gap than the gap between the Milky Way and the Andromeda Galaxy. That's how big it'll be. A wrap. You know what I mean? Like, if he were able to do what he's talking about doing on his face, it's like, man, wow. You want to talk about a permanent underclass? That's the way I see it. Like, bro, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but geez, I don't see how that's gonna work at all. Boy, like, I don't know how that's gonna work at all. Ms. Globe Girl is saying in India, his family was at a decent level in the caste system, so they have never had to pull up from the bootstraps, and that's what it looks like. Facts. That's what it looks like. They came over, they had a plan, educated, they had money. It's not like they weren't slumdog millionaires. You feel me? They weren't out there doing that. Brother Chris Smokey Hat, is Ramaswamy a conservative or liberal? Not too familiar with him. I'm afraid conservative, bro. Big time conservative. Big time. I mean, he's an elitist. He's a billionaire. He's a young guy. Definitely had that silver spoon in his mouth, and I'm not mad about none of that. Well-spoken guy, you know what I mean? Ivy League educated and all that. Best education money can buy. Comes from a good family. Mom and dad are immigrants from India, and they did very well for themselves over here in America. Mom's a doctor, dad's a lawyer. Yeah, bro, he's nowhere near. No, he's definitely conservative. Brother Dino, correct, DL. His parents were top earners, engineer and medicine. Absolutely. Brother Falcon, I believe he said his father came from America on an education visa. Facts. He did say that. He said his father came on an education visa, probably then got hired by GE, and then was able to bring his wife over, and then because I know that Vivek was born in America, so he's an American, born American. So I'm sure dad was able to bring mom over, and she was. I think he said she was already a doctor, so she may have already like completed her education in India or wherever she was educated. She probably was educated in Europe. I'm just guessing because that was normally how that went down. But he was able to bring her over, and they was able to then they started the family. So yeah. And Brother Dino, yeah, I agree with you. He's more of the old school GOP, but the big money old school GOP people, according to my folks out west, they're like, yeah, man, they ain't even looking at him. They don't take him serious at all. So let's continue.
Department, agriculture department, labor department.
Yeah, we're evaluating. I mean, a lot of those are on the potential chop block. We're 7 weeks into this campaign, but the agencies have identified that we would shut down and stay shut down, include the U.S. Department of Education, and then a long list of other agencies that will need to be shut down and possibly have something rebuilt to take their place. FBI, IRS, ATF, that's the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. I've also said similar things about the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, which is fundamentally hostile to nuclear energy in this country. The culture of that agency is broken. We're going to have to rebuild something to take its place.
He's talked a lot about the nuclear energy technology that's out there. Has been a lot. He's been talking a lot about that, and I'm wondering, bro, is that where his money is? Did he buy in? Like, what's going on with that? Is all this a smoke screen? This is all smoke and mirrors, so he can get rid of that, so he could do away with the nuclear energy regulations. Is that what's going on? It's like, maybe we get that going on. Now, I bought in cheap. I can get in here and make myself another couple billion, because everyone has a reason. Like, that's just how it works over here. I ain't mad at dude, but he keeps talking about nuclear energy. Americans are not cool. we ain't that smart over here, but we smart enough to know we don't want another 3 Mile Island. Americans, boy, they on board with that message. They on board. Everybody saw that HBO miniseries on Chernobyl. It was great. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Amazing miniseries. I mean, they embellished a lot, in there, but whatever. But for the most part of it, the core message was true. It really was. They embellished on a bunch of other stuff though, just for dramatic effect. But the core message was true. And then people know what happened with the typhoon or the earthquake that led to the wave, the tidal wave that damaged Fukushima in Japan. Same thing. America doesn't want to deal with that. So, man, he's really pushing that nuclear energy thing, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. Brother Falcon's like, he's far right. He's not a problem. He'll never see the White House. Well, we'll see. Like I said, I got a tinfoil hat conspiracy for y'all, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I'm gonna drop that in a little bit. Brother Dino, like DL, he is your GOP. Andrew Yang, a lot of talk. Yang disappeared before starting any work, let alone the hard work stage. Yeah, Yang is still there. Yang is out there with his Yang gang, and they're still trying to do their thing. He's out there trying to, he started his own party. And this guy, I ain't gonna lie to you, this guy should do that. How about he started his own party? Get some millennials out there, the millennial Republicans, to come out there and start a legit party. I ain't gonna lie, I wouldn't mind seeing Andrew Yang and Vivek Ramaswamy debate. I wouldn't mind, and it didn't have to be a debate, just a discussion. Have those guys just sitting there talking about stuff. Two guys who would never get into the White House, but just to hear their views. Two businessmen, two young guys. I think Yang has way more political experience than Ramaswamy does, but Ramaswamy is way more successful in the business world than Yang. Although Yang is successful, I think that'd be a good conversation. You know what? I think I'm gonna send emails to both camps just to see, like, hey, is there any chance that you guys can sit down together and just have a conversation? I'd love to see that. Ms. Globe Girl, my problem is not with Ramaswamy. I know his politics and position. My problem is the people who have no clue of his politics and will jump on the bandwagon with influence. Facts. I mean, again, personality competition. That's what American politics is. American politics is boiled down to that. Who do you like more? Brother Chris, he's making a lot of bold statements, erasing a lot of federal regulatory departments. I just joined the stream, so I missed the part where he mentions that he will replace them with any ideas. He's just saying they will have to be replaced with something, but he's not saying what that would look like. Right? He's just, they would have to be replaced with something, but what? And this interview was a month ago. I don't know if he has any answers now, but he has a whole campaign behind him. Maybe they're going to start trying to address some of these things. And he doesn't even have a list of the departments that he want to get rid of. This is the first time I heard him actually mention it. Like what departments, like FBI, what did he say? He said ATF, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission wants to get rid of that, wants to do something about the Fed, wants to change the Fed up, wants to fire half of the existing employees in government. Bro, so he's, maybe there's a list by now. I don't know. Brother Falcon, he loves his country, but he didn't like a single agency that supports the country. Interesting. Yeah. It's like I said, it's just the old school traditional talking points. Government's too big. I want to cut down government. I want to, we should pay less taxes. And I think even later he talks about Reagan. He's like talking about, everyone wants to invoke Reagan, less taxes, less, let's get rid of all these regulations, right? Less regulatory oversight, free market. That's very familiar. So let's continue.
Said you would pardon Donald Trump if you were elected.
I said I would pardon Donald Trump and anybody else who's been the victim of a politicized prosecution in this country. We've had a lot of those. Douglas Mackey, maybe a less well-known name. He's somebody facing up to 10 years in prison right now, facing sentencing that could go up to 10 years for making jokes on the internet about Hillary Clinton's voters. By the way, the same joke was made in return about Trump supporters. The person who made that joke continues to roam the American terrain perfectly free. And I think it's a good thing. She shouldn't have been prosecuted, but Douglas Mackey shouldn't have been
I think
prosecuted.
I don't know anything about this Douglas Mackey guy. But if the feds come after you and you're looking at 10 years, bro, trust and believe you broke a law. Now, you know, is there corruption within our system? Absolutely. Yes. I haven't looked into this Doug Mackey. We're going to save that for the part 2. We're going to do another one about this because that don't sound right. Just on his face, that doesn't sound right. We got to look into that. You mean to tell me you facing 10 years in prison because you made a joke? You made a joke about a presidential candidate? No, I don't believe that. And as far as pardoning Donald Trump, you know, Trump's guilty as sin, bro. He had what they said he had, and those documents and the way that we secure those documents is no joke in America. Trump's guilty. I wouldn't be thinking about pardoning Trump. Best you could do for Trump is get him on a box, let him do his time in Trump Towers or something. But they're not even going to do that. That dude's going to have to sit down in an institution for everything that he did. All of the obstruction, trying to hide the stuff, lying to people, bro. And there's just no way. But he came right out. Ramaswamy was like, I would pardon Trump. Word? Okay. You're right. I will pardon Trump. And we're going to pause it there in the video. We're going to come back and I'll probably do another one in a couple of days to, you know, continue this. And then because I want to also talk about the racial component to Vivek Ramaswamy, which is definitely in America. I want to talk about his views on that. You know, his views on affirmative action. Right. So there's more to this I definitely want to get into. But just looking at, right, just on his face, I'm like, man, and Miss Globe girl, you're right. I got all excited and riled up because of that Breakfast Club thing. But boy, oh boy, I would have been wrong. That'd have been, man, But would I sit down and have a conversation with this dude? Absolutely. I sit down and talk to this guy. I try to figure out, you know what I'm saying, what he's really about, what he's after. It seems to me like that whole nuclear energy thing, that seems to be something big that, you know, I mean, I'm a, you know, keep looking, keep looking to see what I can find on this whole nuclear energy thing. He seems to be real hot and heavy on that. And deregulation, of course, all Republicans are on deregulation, especially when it comes to industries that pollute and harm the environment, and when it comes to banking. So, I mean, it is what it is. So my tinfoil hat moment, y'all. My tinfoil hat moment. All right. So right now, Donald Trump is, of course, polling number 1 on the Republican side, followed by DeSantis, who is dropping in the polls rapidly. And then Vivek Ramaswamy is coming in 3rd. I think he's at 7 or 8%. I think he's at 8%. And I think Pence is at 7%. And Ramaswamy is growing. DeSantis is losing support rapidly, right? So we know Donald Trump is getting locked up. It looks like DeSantis is going to jump out of this race. So that puts Ramaswamy at 2 in the 2 slot. So here it is. Here's the theory, right? Donald Trump goes to Vivek Ramaswamy and say, hey, man, why don't you run as my VP? Ramaswamy says, great, I'll run as your VP. And there's the understanding that, hey, man, we both know I'm going to get locked up. So when I get locked up, you just pardon me. And then, you know, it's all good. I'll, you know, come in, you'll resign. I'll come in and you know, whatever. Dude's like, okay, whatever. They do the race, and by some twist of fate, they win. Which, again, that's Trump winning a national election, man. Just, you know, just kind of looking at the electoral map. I don't know how he does it, but let's say somehow they pull it off. Trump wins. He's locked up, right? Because we got you in jail. You locked up. He's president. And he's like, cool, my guy is about to pardon me so I can come out here and become president. But Ramaswamy's like, nah, man, you go ahead and sit there. You stay over there, bro. You broke the law. What you did was horrific. You do your time. The president-elect can't take his office because he's locked up. Vice president becomes the president. Vivek Ramaswamy would be the 47th president of the United States of America if that were to happen. That's my tinfoil hat moment, right? That's my conspiracy theory. That would be a move that would even make the prince himself, Machiavelli, proud. Right? Like, you did what? That would be amazing, but be bad for the country. because then we'll have nuclear power plants everywhere and unregulated and banks and all kind of stuff going crazy. And yeah, it'll be crazy. Brother Dino, a cell-style far-right propagandist from Florida, was convicted Friday of charges alleging that he conspired to deprive individuals of their right to vote in the 2016 presidential election. I haven't read that one, but I believe it. I'm gonna have to look into that. I wonder how much time he's going to get. Brother Falcon, Trump is innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. Interesting that he's already ready to pardon him. Everybody knows Trump's getting locked up, bro. It's just a matter of time. Biden will pardon Trump. And this Miss Globe girl, I thought that for a moment. I'm like, you know what? Biden will pardon Trump because it's the presidential boys club. But now I don't know, especially after seeing that indictment, after seeing all of those documents and seeing what he was doing and having the recordings and having the transcripts. Nah, I don't see anybody part. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know if Biden will do it. That's we'll see. We shall see, Brother Falcon. Saying he'll pardon. Oh, like this is part 2. Is that he's already saying he'll pardon him. That's not American at all. Looks like he's already got one question wrong on his citizenship test. Funny. Brother Dino, Douglas Mackey sounds like a guy to pardon. Yeah, I don't know anything about that story. I'm definitely gonna look that up. I saw that when I was watching the video, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to look this guy up and see what time it is, and we'll talk about him on the next episode because I'm going to look into that. I want to see who this dude is. And they were talking about Julian Assange, and he was talking about why he would pardon Julian Assange, which I kind of agree with. I'm like, all right, I see what he's saying. Definitely will be open to debate or conversation as to why he would do that. But then, you know, some of those other guys, like anybody who's in the military and they leak classified documents, I would let the military deal with them. That's how it works. That's it. You go into Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, nice knowing you. Let the military deal with that. I hate that became politicized or whatever, but it is what it is. Brother Falcon, I agree with Ms. Globe Girl. Chris Smokey, I like Brother Dino. Thanks for the input. Yeah, Brother Dino be up on it, man. I'm still trying to get up to speed on UK politics, man. Y'all got a mess over there, player. I'm just trying to figure out how Parliament works. I'm trying to figure out how y'all be doing y'all things. Woo, boy. I'm gonna keep working on it, bro. I'm gonna keep working on it because you know so much about what's going on over here. I want to know about what's going on over there. But that's my tinfoil hat moment. That's my conspiracy. Vivek Ramaswamy runs on the Trump ticket as the VP. Trump gets locked up, wins the election, and he's full-heartedly thinking that Ramaswamy is going to pardon him. Ramaswamy doesn't. He takes, he takes the office as president of the United States and let Trump do his time. Wouldn't that be hilarious? Actually, it would not be funny. It'll be scary for the rest of us. Just based on the stuff that I'm looking at, But a president, although American presidents can do a lot through executive action, you still need Congress, and you still need the Supreme Court. That's a whole nother conversation. But hey, y'all, thanks for rocking out with me. You know what I mean? So that's what it is, man. That's one of many shows we're gonna have. I'm gonna continue to follow Brother Ramaswamy. I'm intrigued by the brother, and again, I like hearing his conversations. There is a before he announced 6 months ago, he did the Patrick Bet-David PBD podcast. So he was on there. I've watched that interview. I've been out reading what I can, watching other interviews. He's getting real active in mainstream media now. He's putting it all out there, bro. So this is a fun dude to follow. He's number 3 in the polls right now, and he's growing with a bullet. DeSantis is falling off, and Trump is just waiting to get locked up. He's waiting for his day in court, and we all know that's gonna be ugly. So yeah, we'll see how this plays out. We shall see how this plays out, man. So thanks for rocking out with me, guys. I appreciate it. I know it's Saturday evening. Y'all could be doing way more stuff and having way more fun with other people, but you're here with me, and I appreciate y'all, man. Brother Chris is saying, Brother Dino, thanks for the input. Brother Falcon, watching with friends. Brother Dino, forget UK politics, DL. We have Rami twins and prime minister right now. Yeah, Rami's twin and prime minister. Yeah, bro, I'm trying to get up to speed on that, man. It's a lot of craziness going on over there. But I'm working on it. It keeps my mind sharp, bro. As I get older, if I just keep trying to learn stuff, I think I could live a little bit longer and keep my blood pressure under control. Oh, good news. Doctor says I'm good. Gave me a good clean body of health right there. She said I'm good. Just gotta go back in December, do some follow-up work, gotta do some blood work, but all is well. And thank y'all so much for checking up on me and asking me about what's going on with that. Brother Dino was like, no notification again. Hey man, I think YouTube just hates me, bro. I don't know what's up with that. They watch it with friends at the bar. Oh, that's what's up. Tell your people I said what's up, Brother Falcon. But yeah, man, this is what it is. This is American politics. This is why we have Downrange Podcast, where we just talk about nothing but politics over here. Be looking out for some more stuff on I Really Want to Know. I know this is on I Really Want to Know podcast because I haven't figured out the technical issues with broadcasting live on the other channel, but I'm going to sort that out. I promise. Until then, I'm just going to keep doing what I do and move the stuff over as we do it. The next episode we're going to do on I Really Want to Know, we're going to be talking about AI again. I got my eye on that. I'm seeing some good stuff out here. Man, AI, bro, did we let the genie out the bottle, bro? That, man, we're going to talk about it. So I will put out the thumbnail. Tuesday, we're going to have a show. We're going to be talking about the whole Passport Bros things. Last good man in Jersey was just in the Philippines. He said he had a good trip, and he's telling American men to go to the Philippines. You'll find yourself a great bride. You don't need any game. Just go over there and all will be well. And I'm telling him that's absolute craziness. That's crazy talk. Don't do it. You're going to wind up going over to the Philippines. You're going to go over to somewhere in Africa or somewhere in Brazil. Not only is she going to take all your money, they might take your kidneys. You need game, gentlemen. You're going to go out here, going to some other hemisphere somewhere, some other country somewhere, thinking you're going to find a perfect woman. Boy, you got another thing coming. If you believe that, I got a bridge I want to sell you. So you need game, people. You need understanding. Don't be dumb. So we're going to have that discussion on Tuesday at, I think we're going on at 7. I think, be looking for the thumbnail, y'all. The thumbnail should be out tomorrow. And we're going to have a good conversation with Brother Gene, the last good man in Jersey. Thanks for rocking out with me, y'all. Appreciate it. Brother Dino said I unsubscribed and subscribed again. Yeah, man, I'm not sure what it is, man. Maybe YouTube is mad at me. I don't know, bro, but I thank you for coming through and finding me. You always seem to find us when we're broadcasting, man. Thank you. I truly appreciate you, man. Day one. You know what I mean? One of my day ones, man. You know what I'm saying? I rock with all y'all. So I'm done. I'm DL Saint. This is the Downrange Podcast. I'm going to talk to y'all later. Peace.
Darn, that's the end.